Gene Siskel, one half of the iconic film critic duo Siskel and Ebert, was known for his sharp insights and no-nonsense approach to movies. The 1980s was a decade of bold filmmaking, and Siskel had a keen eye for picking out the gems. Here are a few 80s films that Siskel thought were actually worth your time. Sid and Nancy from director Alex Cox featured Gary Oldman in his breakthrough performance as Sex Pistols lead singer Sid Vicious. Cox provides an insightful yet cynical look at the punk rock scene of the 1970s and how it fostered the toxic relationship of Vicious and his girlfriend. In his 1986 review of the film, Siskel singled out his Oldman's punk rock version of My Way as his favorite musical scene in the film. He's right, the scene perfectly encapsulates Sid Vicious's destructive nature. Despite multiple honors by film critics the year it was released, the film didn't earn a single Oscar nomination. Kagemusha is an epic samurai tale with a twist. When a samurai warlord in medieval Japan is wounded in battle, a penniless thief who happens to be his doppelganger is hired to take his place and keep the injury a secret. When the warlord dies, the thief has to continue the charade, with tragic results. In the United States, the film was promoted with the line, "George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola present," because the pair helped Kurosawa fund the film. Jeremy Irons shines in Moonlighting, an often overlooked gem about Polish migrants who traveled to London for work just before the 1981 uprising in Poland caused martial law to be instituted, cutting them off from their country. Irons is the only member of the group who speaks English and is the only one seemingly keeping the group focused, while keeping them in the dark of events back home. It's an interesting slice-of-life film that captured the anti-Polish mood in Britain of the early 1980s. Sergio Leone's final film spans from the early 1920s to the late 1960s and centers on an aging gangster who returns to his old haunts in New York City. In a series of flashbacks, we learn how his life on the streets eventually left him broken and penniless. For its American release, producers cut over an hour and a half from Leone's original cut that screened at the Cannes Film Festival. While Leone's cut, at nearly 4 hours, was widely praised, the shorter American version was a flop with critics. Thankfully, Leone's original cut is the only one now available on physical disc and streaming. Do the Right Thing elevated Spike Lee to Hollywood's pantheon of filmmakers. The film covers a fateful day in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn. At the time of its release, Siskel praised the film's performances and called the movie a spiritual documentary that shows racial joy, hatred, and confusion at every turn. Thankfully, Lee recently said he has no plans to revisit the film with a sequel, prequel, or a remake, resisting Hollywood's call to cash in on a classic. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is more than just a technical marvel blending animation and live action. It's an entertaining tribute to both film noir detective mysteries and hand-drawn animation. It marked the only time Disney and Warner Brothers animated characters appeared together, and it's a timeless treat. Robert Zemeckis' manic direction is on point, and the film won 3 Oscars in technical categories, including Best Visual Effects. My Dinner with Andre has earned an almost mythic reputation among film fans as one of the finest examples of presenting dialogue on screen. The independent film languished at the box office until Siskel and Roger Ebert featured it on sneak previews and called it one of their favorite films of the year, giving it a boost in ticket sales and putting it on the radar of other movie fans. Siskel called the film's characters some of the most interesting people I have ever known, and called the movie reality crystallized. The Right Stuff is a rousing look at the birth of America's space program, with great performances from no less than a dozen actors, all portraying real-life astronauts, their wives, and NASA personnel. A mix of high drama that never gets too corny or melodramatic, the film manages to tell an epic story by grounding it within the personal lives of those involved. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It lost to Terms of Endearment. This landmark documentary of the Holocaust runs an incredible 9.5 hours long and is composed entirely of interviews from survivors and incredibly even ex-Nazis who wouldn't go on camera but spoke through audio recordings. Siskel called the documentary the greatest use of film in motion picture history, taking movies to their highest moral value. Robert De Niro's Oscar-winning performance as real-life boxer Jake LaMotta is based on his autobiography. But director Martin Scorsese does him no favors. Raging Bull lays bare his abusive nature that was just as brutal for his family as it was for other fighters. Shot completely in black and white, the imagery from cinematographer Michael Chapman is often mesmerizing. Nominated for 8 Oscars, it won 2, including Best Actor. Despite its near-universal acclaim, it lost the Best Picture award to Robert Redford's Ordinary People.